Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Staycation Reacts, where we break the spell of manipulation one story at a time. So, today I'm covering the Ruby Frank story, and a lot of you all may already be familiar with this story because it's recent news, recent as in within the last 4 to 5 years. I'm going to go ahead and just let this play. The video that I'm reacting to is lengthy, so I'm not going to have, well, I won't say that. I may comment quite a bit, but I'm going to keep it brief so that I don't extend it too much.
So about 3 years ago, I did a video on my channel discussing the 8 Passengers family vlogging channel. Now, if any of you guys aren't familiar with 8 Passengers, 8 Passengers is a family vlogging channel comprised of the mom, Ruby, her husband, Kevin, and their 5 children from oldest to youngest, Sherry, Chad, Julie, Abby, Russell, and Eve. Now, the ringleader of this family vlogging channel was Ruby. The only reason we talked about the family vlogging channel 3 years ago was because 8 Passengers came under a lot of fire when a lot of their viewers started to notice that there was a lot of child abuse going on in the videos. I feel like every family vlogging channel is at least a little bit controversial, especially family vlogging channels that make their kids the sole purpose of their videos. I said this 3 years ago and I still stand by it today. I don't really think family vlogging channels are a good idea because your child has no business being on youtube.com. Like, why am I looking through my recommend?
So I agree a lot with what she's saying right here. And I've said this before about other situations, but your children being the focus of your content is not good. Their focus is supposed to be being children. And if they have to be the focus of your content, then that means essentially they're working. They're working for you, and you determine what they get paid, if they get paid. But they're working for you. And then putting your children out there like that in this society, it just is not safe. But I'm going to go ahead and let her talk.
And your baby is staring right back at me in the thumbnail. Even if you are like a proud parent and you want to like share your child and stuff like that, you can share it with like close family members or friends, but strangers online, I feel like with this day and age and the easy access to anything you want online, it literally opens up the floor to a lot of very creepy predatorial people. And the messed up part about all of that is that I do feel like a lot of family vlogging channels know deep down that what they're doing is a little bit weird, yet they still continue to do it, which is even more weird. And back 3 years,
and I agree with that also. They well, if you have some type of monitor anyway within yourself, you know that what you're doing is pushing the envelope. But if you're getting the response that you want from it, you just keep doing it regardless. That's when your principles go out the door.
Years ago when we were talking about 8 Passengers, this is exactly what I was calling them out for being weird, but also because there were clear signs of child abuse going on in the household, as the mother Ruby restricting food from her children on multiple occasions.
I'm only gonna say it one more time and then you're gonna lose the privilege to eat dinner.
She also sent her son to a wilderness camp for 10 weeks and took his bed away for 7 months and forced him to sleep on a beanbag chair. Even though the family had moved from one house to another and they had a bedroom for him to sleep in, they still forced him to sleep on the beanbag chair. There was also another occasion where Ruby had received a text message from her 6-year-old daughter's teacher saying that her 6-year-old didn't show up with food that day for lunch and she was starving, and so she was asking Ruby if she could come down to the school and bring something for her 6-year-old to eat, to which Ruby basically said no, that she wasn't going to do that because it was her 6-year-old's responsibility to make her own lunch, and if she didn't make her own lunch, then it was just simply the consequences of her actions. And there were
Now, what type of personality do you have to have that you make your child be the adult in the situation? The mom is old enough to be able to drive. Her body is long enough to be able to reach the pedals. So it's seeming like that's the only thing that's separating her and her daughter, because other than that, at 6 years old, she's making her responsible for adult things. And if she doesn't carry it out, it's her fault. Her daughter fell short, not the mom. What kind of personality do you have to put your children in that type of position? In that type of position. It's crazy.
Also cases of, as I said, Ruby just being so weird, such as filming her 11-year-old's first time shaving her legs. Ruby also filmed her telling her 6-year-old daughter that someone like really close to them had passed away, and she filmed her reaction to the death. Boggles my mind how much Ruby did and how much Ruby got away with, but that honestly was just service level. That was simply just what we could see on camera. Now fast forward 3 years, current day, Ruby, about a week ago, Ruby was recently just placed in prison and charged with 6 counts of child abuse. The things that were going on behind the scenes that was not filmed on camera is so heartbreaking and so...
And that's always the scary part, when you know that things are happening off camera, because you can see the reactions and how they move when they're on camera. People that don't pay attention to that are just strictly there for the entertainment. But when you look deeper into a situation and you know that you see what you see, it's alarming to think of what is going on off camera. For a person to act like that on camera, what are they doing off camera?
Unbelievable. And so if you didn't see my first video, don't feel like you have to go and watch that. I will be explaining mostly everything I explained in my first video, but now with deeper detail, because there are a lot of things that were said at the trial that I didn't know about before. So grab a little something, sit down, lock in for me while we revisit the 8 passengers. But before we get into all that, I do want to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Audible. Audible is your new best friend.
Audible is not paying me, so we're gonna go on past this. Unless you want to, Audible, I'm always here. I am open to it, but not today.
Video.
I've been a masterful manipulator. I have manipulated using sex. I've manipulated using external rewards. I have wanted something and I'm going to get it no matter.
As for a little bit of backstory on the ringleader of 8 passengers, Ruby Frank. Ruby Frank grew up in a very strict Mormon household and was the oldest of 5 children, with her 3 sisters and 1 brother. Ruby would go on to say that her parents growing up were extremely abusive and they tended to neglect their children a lot, which led Ruby, who was the oldest sibling, to become a third parent to all of her younger siblings. And because she spent most of...
So we all know that abuse is a learned behavior. It can also stem from anger issues and other things, but it's a learned behavior. And if you see your parents doing it, it's almost guaranteed that you'll end up doing that also. You have to will yourself not to become what you grew up under. So I can see her being who she is because of her past situation. And that can be for anybody, but you can never use it as a crutch. You should always be trying to be a better version of yourself and not take your children through what you went through. You are capable of being a different person. And, you know, unless you're like in a really bad mental space, I feel like you use it as an excuse to just keep being that person.
Her time taking care of her siblings, she wasn't really able to go out and do the things that typical teens her age did. So after high school, she ended up going to Utah State, and that is when she would meet her future husband, Kevin. Now, she actually met Kevin when she was a freshman and Kevin was a senior.
I broke. One night, I was holding hands with Kevin under a blanket on one side, and there was another boy on the other side, and I was holding his hand too.
So to me, that's a narcissistic type of personality. She's so into herself that she feels like everybody else should be into her the same way. Now, this is her husband right here that's recording what she just said. He has to have a pushover type of personality, because he's not in his feelings about, well, he's probably in his feelings, but he's not showing it. But she thinks that it's cute. She's so into herself that she thinks that that story was funny, and that it didn't make her look like what it made her look like.
Yeah, and it became super. When we got married, I was 18. I had just finished.
Ruby was only 18 at the time, and after only 2 weeks of meeting Kevin, the two of them got married. And then whilst Ruby was still in college at 20 years old, that is when she would grow pregnant with her very first child, Sherry. Now, in a vlog before, Ruby had said that even though she was in college, she didn't really have plans of getting a job after college, because her dream was to become a stay-at-home mother. And that's exactly what she did. After she graduated college, her and Kevin got a house, and that is where they would raise their family in Utah. 2 years after Ruby had Sherry, that is when she would have her second kid, who was a son named Chad. And then after that, she would begin to have Julie, Abby, Russell, and Eve, all 4 kids about 2 years in between each other. And so that leads us to the birth of 8 Passengers. 8 Passengers actually started back in 2012, where they filmed their very first vlog. It was basically Ruby and her family going to the opening day of a Chick-fil-A in their town, and she says the reason why they're there, it's because they don't support gay rights.
This is us waiting in line to eat at Chick-fil-A because we're supporting marriage between man and woman. And here's the end of the line.
That being their very first video, you can kind of catch the vibe of how the rest of this channel is going to go. Now, the main reason why Ruby wanted to try out family vlogging was because her sister Ellie and her husband Jared actually had a channel themselves, and it seemed pretty fun. And with Ruby being a stay-at-home mother, she did have the feeling as if she wanted to start doing something for herself. The 8 Passengers channel would actually gain a lot of popularity, and so due to all of Ruby's success on her YouTube channel, this is actually what led all of Ruby's sisters as well as her brother to also start YouTube channels of their own. And Ruby's parents also had a YouTube channel as well. Now, in Ruby's videos, she would constantly say how she was Mormon and her family went to a Mormon church and that was their religion, but there was actually an ex-member of Ruby's Mormon church that said Ruby was kind of treated like a celebrity at the church, and even the people that worked at the church would treat her as,
you know, the church is supposed to be uplifting, but it's alarming that you find all of this mind manipulation and cult-like behavior within churches. And it doesn't matter the religion, you know, Mormon, Christian. I'm gonna stop there because I haven't seen it in other religions, but it's alarming at what they do to people, the mind control that they get over people, and then start to just take advantage of them. But you're supposed to be the ones that are leading with Christ. It's scary to me that people come with their guard down looking for help and end up being taken advantage of.
Such. They would give her gifts, they would give her funding for her videos, they paid her to do Christmas campaigns and shout outs to the church, and it's also very slightly suspected that the church paid for her house in Utah. This abuse of her children wouldn't be as direct in the beginning.
Church paying for your whole lifestyle. You're the least of the congregation, but that same personality that she just told this story of holding two guys' hands at the same time is the personality that worked its way into the church treating her like they did. That's the exact same personality. She just uses it everywhere. And people that aren't leading with the right spirit will allow for that to be the reason why they do what they do for you. And I've, you know, in a other family that I cover, feel like that was the point that they were trying to get to, was to be taken care of by a congregation. It just never worked out. It didn't materialize, but that was their goal.
As it later would become. At first, it just started off with Ruby telling very concerning stories about her and her kids, including this one story where Ruby goes on to say that her 6-month-old named Russell, at the time of her filming the video, I believe Russell was like 3 years old, but she was recounting a story of when he was 6 months old. And she goes on to say that when Russell was 6 months old, supposedly, she had Russell laying on her lap, and then she went to go get up, and then in getting up, Russell fell off of her lap and onto the floor, but he didn't completely hit the floor because she was able to catch him before he actually fell. But after a week, he wasn't getting better. He kept on crying, and so she took him to the hospital, and that's when the doctors revealed that Russell had broken his femur. If you are a baby and you're just rolling off someone's lap, you are not going to break your femur. Your femur is the biggest bone in your body. Thus, it is the hardest to break in your body. Babies' bones are really hard to break.
So now she's not just narcissistic, she's abusive. And she's abusive to the point that she's causing medical damage. It's not just, you know, verbal abuse or, you know, a little pushing and shoving, or you're going to miss a meal. Medical attention is needed
to begin with, because they're not fully developed yet. Their bones are still a little bit like rubber, and the fact that Russell at 6 months old broke his femur, I am so surprised that that baby wasn't crying in excruciating pain for an entire week before finally.
And he probably was crying for an entire week, and she just downplayed it, made it seem like it was less than what it was. You know, I said it before about another channel. When they find prey, they will keep that person in that position because it makes them feel some type of way. It gives them a joy to have somebody that they can press down, you know, suppress. And she did it across the board to all of her children, but that baby had no fighting chance because it's completely dependent on her. That's a very evil person right there.
Getting treatment. Now, because of this broken femur, it actually did have a lot of long-term effects on Russell, because Russell wasn't even able to start crawling until he was 1 year old and didn't start walking until he was 2 years old. So this clearly had a lot of developmental issues in Russell, and a lot of ER nurses and doctors came out about this after the fact and said that it is quite impossible for a baby to break their femur if they are simply just rolling off of the couch. There clearly was something else besides that. And so once this story was told, that's when viewers started to realize that there was...
I'm surprised, though, that whoever treated that baby did not investigate it more. You know, people started talking about it after this case became headline news, but medical professionals are supposed to know these type of things and report it, and I'm just surprised that didn't happen. But I'm almost certain that same personality that she's been displaying for everybody else, she did it there too, and they're just, you know, looking like, oh, it couldn't have been her. There's no way she did that. My mind is just messing with me. What she said happened is what really happened.
Definitely something a lot more going on. But nonetheless, as the channel grew, all of this abuse just ran right under the radar.
Dad's taking you to the game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I'm gonna go. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Dad, you won't feel bad?
You know.
Don't say that, or you're gonna think I never go to your games. That's true. I come to your games. I came to your last.
Last season, you only came to like 2 games.
So she's got the camera rolling. She wants to make herself look like she's this perfect parent, but the kids won't let it be. So, will you be upset if I won't come to a game tonight? He says, no, I won't. You don't never come. Why would you say that? Is he lying? So now she wants to play it off. This is that personality trying to come out. The one that she thinks she can sugarcoat everything with. She has gotten used to being this version of herself and people just letting it slide. So she turns the camera to herself so that she can interject that energy across the screen. But the kids are telling the truth. They're outing her. You don't never come, so no, I won't be hurt.
You're ratting me out.
As they were on the rise for their YouTube channel, that is when Ruby started to realize that the more vulnerable content she posted of her kids online, the more views it would get, thus the more money she would make. Ruby would then start filming very, very intimate moments with her children. But as I said earlier, it was also around this time where she had filmed her 11-year-old shaving her legs in a bathtub. Now, I don't have to tell you the target audience that she was targeting, but it's quite clear exactly what she was doing. Now, this isn't even the first vulnerable moment she had filmed on camera. She had also filmed giving the period talk to her daughters. She has also filmed one of her daughters telling the story of how she had her first kiss. She also filmed her 6-year-old's reaction to the death of someone that they knew. Just really.
So, you know, when she talks about vulnerable moments, it makes me think about IAG and how people have fussed about the baby being filmed on that potty chair. And if it's not bad enough that when he's covered with a blanket and you know that he's sitting on that potty, and then you have the audacity for him to be uncovered, and you filmed it and you held it there long enough to where we know that you did it on purpose. That's what this reminds me of. Mirror image.
Really invasive content, and obviously because of all of this content, it led the kids to get severely bullied at.
Or your wife in the hospital in a vulnerable state, and you got the camera all in her face. The baby at his dentist appointment, you got the camera all in his face. But nobody ever sees your vulnerability.
School. And once again, Ruby knew exactly what she was doing by posting these types of videos. And of course, she had the comments off on all of the videos, because why would she have the comments on?
Ooh, there's a running theme with those comments getting turned off. They never want to be held accountable for the mess that they do. That is a running theme. My goodness. So now you can see that this personality trait, they display the same things. Without knowing each other, they display the same things. Wow.
Ruby would then grow more vulnerable on her channel. She would just then air out all of her business, all of her kids' business, as well as being more in depth about their discipline and rules of the house. It was made apparent at this point in the videos that her husband Kevin was really nowhere to be seen, and there were even people that questioned if Ruby was even a single mother because Kevin was never featured in videos. But in reality, Kevin worked full-time as a professor at a college, and so he was consistently on work trips. But due to these consistent work trips, it left Ruby with the children all by herself. At one point, people even questioned if Ruby even liked her kids to begin with, because when you look around the house, it literally looked like an IKEA showroom house. There were no pictures of the kids up on the wall. There was nothing that showed like that she was proud of her kids or that she even liked her kids. There was also a video of hers where, mind you,
does this sound familiar? Nothing that shows that you're proud of your children. No family pictures up. It's it's just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. But you can't argue with facts. And here are the facts. They're just laid out. Oh, this is okay.
At this point, she was making a pretty penny from YouTube, and in one of the clips, she was disappointed in herself because she needed to up her food budget so that she'd be able to feed her kids more food. Point in the video where she was showing a haul of all of the food that she had gotten, and none of the food was nutritious. There was one small bowl of fruit, there was no vegetables, and it was literally just all snack food. And then around this time is where
I mean, what have I been talking about here lately? Nutrition, no vegetables, all that salt. It's astonishing. This is astonishing. It's almost like a mirror image right now. But I'm gonna let her keep talking. Goodness.
we would finally see Ruby for the first time disciplining her kid. The situation is that Eve and Russell were in her bathroom playing with nail polish, and Eve accidentally got nail polish on the bathroom rug as well as the bathroom floor. Now to this, Ruby didn't get outraged, she didn't yell, she didn't get mad, or it appeared to be not on camera, and she basically told Eve that because of this, she was not allowed to paint her nails for an entire month, even though it was Eve's favorite thing to do. Now, I don't think Eve did this on purpose. I don't think it was her intention to paint the floor. It was simply just an accident. And on top of that, she was going to make Eve do extra chores to help pay for her new bathroom rug. Mind you,
now this is when you have a parent that walks around the house looking for something to be upset about. You have, 6 children? You're going to have to clean up some things. There are going to be kids, there are going to be things you have to fix. There are going to be things that you have to put a little elbow grease into. That's part of you being the parent. But she's looking for things to be upset about so that she can have a reason to punish them. It's like she has a magnifying glass out. What did y'all do today? What can I get on to you about today? What can I punish you for today? I need to get my daily fix. I need to get on to somebody about something.
Eve is 6 years old in this video.
Looking and looking and looking for Eve, and I was like, why isn't Eve at the dinner table yet? She usually comes to dinner as soon as I call her. And then I go looking outside. We've been looking for 30 straight minutes. And then I found this. You only got a little gist of it on camera. All of the discipline takes place off camera. But one of the consequences is she will not be getting her nails painted for a solid month. And that's like her favorite thing. Came off the tile okay. But I think my rug is totaled.
But aren't you glad it happened that way and not the other way around?
It came off the tile okay.
Why not? Aren't you glad?
I'm glad it came off the tile and
So you have to look at the bright side.
thank you, Sherry.
The tile is good, and it would have been a lot more expensive than to replace at most $100.
So somebody's having to talk her off the ledge because she knows, I'm assuming this is one of the older children, knows that her mom has to be talked down because she takes things too far. And just the little bit of me watching videos of her, she functions like somebody who is not mentally all the way there. But she has a certain look about herself that gets her into doors. But if anybody were actually to just sit and dissect the person, they probably wouldn't want to deal with her. She's getting in on looks because you can tell just in brief conversations that the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top.
$100 rug. It's not $100, yeah. Not that expensive. Okay. My kids have helped me finish raising myself. I swear. Just because you turn 18 does not mean you're a full-grown, mature adult. There's nothing magic about the number 18. I think having...
Never truer words. Okay, so she just admitted it out of her own mouth. So, I don't have to re-interject that anymore. But you know, I see that on IG Farms as well. That, and you know, I probably said it in the last video I did. Tim is still a child. He's still being raised with his children. You can see it. It's very obvious. He's very immature. He's just older. But he lacks maturity. That's why he can't keep relationships. There's not a mature man there. He talks about manhood because he's still trying to find his. He's always talking about manhood, raising men. But a boy can't raise a man.
Kids has helped finish raise me because it makes me focus more on controlling myself than controlling them. And it is so hard to do.
So now let's take it to the year of 2019, where the 8 Passengers was really at their peak. They were gaining subscribers rapidly, and at this point, they had already reached 300,000 subscribers. And even though she was filming all of this very vulnerable content, she never really saw a problem with it because it was so easy where, like, if a person were to be like, hey, that's wrong what you're doing, that's really messed up, that's a really big breach of privacy for this kid, it was very easy for Ruby to just come back and be like, no, it's not like that, it's just because I'm raw and real and I'm trying to show what it's really like in a family. And so it's so easy for her to say that she's just being raw or real instead of just taking accountability and admitting that what she did was wrong and weird. And in 2019, that is when viewers slowly started to realize in the vlogs, because at this point Ruby was daily vlogging, and so viewers started to realize that for the past 2 weeks Chad hadn't been featured in the videos. And so Ruby and Kevin got on a video where they responded to this with the title, "Where is Chad?" And within this video, they were talking about how they had sent Chad to a wilderness camp called Anasazi, located in Arizona.
Probably wondering what the heck we're talking about. Chad today has just entered the Anasazi Foundation Wilderness Therapy Program, where he's going to spend the next 8 to 10 weeks living in the
Anasazi Desert.
Yeah, the desert mountains of Arizona. And he'll be with counselors and other youth that are trying to figure some things out. So you're probably wondering, what did Chad do? We're not even going to entertain that stuff, but it's an accumulation of things over years, well before we ever started YouTubing or well before we ever got into social media. And it's reached a point where Chad needs to develop some very basic maturity and skills that he's going to need as an adult. And
this is a chance for like a reset, like a start over.
So what they're saying is that they sent their son off to be parented by somebody else. He has 2 parents, and rather than his parents parent, they're going to send him off to let some other people do it. His dad is gone too much, and the mom uses abuse as a form of parenting. She takes things away from them and think that that's parenting. She's not out there teaching them anything other than hate. That's what's in her. That's what comes out of her. That's all we've heard up to this point. Those kids are getting older because nature forces them to get older, but they are not maturing because of her. The outside world is maturing them. And their son is having some issues. If you're coming up in that type of environment, I would have issues also. First of all, you're being filmed. And they already said that they would go to school and get bullied because everybody is seeing every moment of their life. Their mom don't care. It's making her money. She don't care about them getting bullied. So now you're going to have disciplinary problems because you're bucking the system. I want this to stop. I don't want you filming me. I don't want to go to school and my friends know what I did when I got home last night. I don't want you disciplining me and everybody knows what happened. So they sent their son away for somebody else to parent him. This is the stupidest stuff I've ever heard. Kudos to the people who figured out how to get people's money like this, because that's all that is. Taking people's money.
Like a do-over, like a fresh beginning.
Yeah. So the idea is with wilderness therapy is if you can survive with these peers in the wilderness with nothing more than the clothes on your back and a couple of field supplies, then there's nothing in this world that...
I feel like what happened was that son talked back to her. He didn't want to do things her way. She couldn't control him. So she gets the dad on her side by telling whatever version of events to sell him on this idea. Now you can see the joy in her face. I don't have to deal with him anymore. When you're gone, I won't have to deal with him. I got rid of him. She's very happy about this. The dad, he just talking. He think he know what he talking about. I know his world came shattering down when they made the headline news.
that you can't tackle.
Mind you, Chad is 12 years old. What adult skills do you expect a 12-year-old boy to have?
Exactly.
The only adult skill that a 12-year-old boy should have is tying their shoes. Nothing else should be his problem because he's a child and should be taken care of. Usually,
and this is the same thing I say with IAG Farms. He expects for them to be little adults, and they should only be being children. School and playing should be at the top of their list of things to do, and then some chores. But he has them running the house, and it seems like she was doing the same thing. She's talking about her kids raising her.
people who take wilderness therapy seriously are people who have been substance abusers in the past, specifically with alcohol or drugs, or they had just gotten out of prison. And those are the type of people that were entering these sorts of wilderness therapies. Those adults should not be mingling with little kids that just did something minorly wrong, but their parents saw it as major and sent them to this wilderness camp for 5 to 10 weeks.
So bottom line, it's going to be a long time before any of us sees Chad. We'll hear from him weekly in letters. The family will.
Go past that part because of the music.
Not have contact with any of his family, and the only contact that he gets is emails being sent back and forth from the Anasazi team to Kevin and Ruby. As you can also pretty much put 2 and 2 together, it's very, very easy for these counselors to lie to parents and lie about how their kid is doing. It's also very easy for these counselors to reread and revise all of the letters that these kids are putting out to their parents, so their parents don't get worried and try to save them. And I don't doubt that this is exactly what Anasazi was doing to Chad, because Ruby and Kevin had revealed to the audience that they were putting Chad in this wilderness camp. Well, when Chad was all said and done, there was actually a video posted where Ruby filmed her reunion with her son for the first time in 10 weeks. It's so heartbreaking to watch because when he goes in, he looks like a little boy. He talks like a little boy, but when he comes back, his voice literally drops an octave. Like, he has an audibly deeper voice, and on top of that, he looks so drained and tired and sleep deprived and hungry.
So he was going through his physical changes as a little boy into a teenage boy. He needed his dad around more, not to be sent off somewhere. But I understand that his dad has a job and he has to do what's required at his job. But that's still what he needed, was his dad more, not to go somewhere else.
He looks like as if he's aged 10 years. And Chad, upon returning home, Ruby made Chad do a Q&A video for the channel, because obviously Ruby got a lot of backlash for sending him to this wilderness camp, so she wanted to prove to anyone, actually, in fact, he did have a good time. So what you're saying is irrelevant. And she literally interviews Chad. Chad, in this Q&A, basically says that he loved the wilderness camp and he would definitely go back, and he would also recommend it to other people who are interested. But also, Ruby is in front of the camera while he is answering these questions. So why would he tell the truth? Just so he can be told that he's being bad?
Just like the video that I just covered with Megan, where he has her giving her, repenting. I don't know if he was outside while she was filming, like behind the camera, but I feel like he was. And so, you're going to stay on cue when somebody, the person that has you doing it in the first place, is right there in your face.
Again, and then run the risk of being sent back. And apparently none of that camp had even helped all of his behavioral issues, as they were saying, because the day that he came back from the camp, he was playing with his little brother Russell. He had picked up Russell and put him on the basketball rim, to which Russell was just kind of hanging on to it, and Chad left him there, and it was just like this big joke.
Chad, the day I got home too.
Chad came home from Anasazi,
And I lifted him up on the
and he
rim.
was
And left him there. We saw 3 minutes, and he was just hanging on
Do
there.
you think it's funny? Because
And then I walked out.
if you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
That to me is like a little harmless, because that just seems like brother sort of play. And then in late of 2019, that's when Ruby would reveal that the family was going to be moving out of their house and into a bigger one. That's when Ruby reveals in the following video that Chad had played a prank, a harmless prank, on his little brother Russell, where he woke up Russell in the middle of the night and saying that their family was going to Disneyland, and they weren't going to Disneyland. It was just, again, a funny prank, a joke, whatever, no big deal. Like, no one's really getting hurt at the end of the day. But Ruby decided to punish Chad in the most extreme way possible and take away his bed for 7 months, where Chad was then forced to sleep on a beanbag chair for 7 months. And the reason why I'm mentioning this now is because, as I said in the beginning, they were in the process of moving houses, and although they had moved from this old house to their new house, Chad continued sleeping on the beanbag chair because Ruby felt as if he didn't learn his lesson yet. And so in the following year of 2020, that is when everything went down. I don't have to explain it, you were there as well. And unfortunately, because of everything, when things were slowly going into lockdown, this is unfortunately when the kids had to stay home from school. And so they no longer had the escape of going to sports or clubs or school. They were forced to sit in a house monitored 24/7 by Ruby and Kevin. There was...
How is taking your child out of school always an option to you? Now, it's really scary at how many things are so similar with these stories. So Andrea Yates was homeschooling her children. They haven't said that these children were being homeschooled. They were just taken out of school, but their school is no longer in the equation for them. And then IG Farms is homeschooling their children. There are so many similarities in all of these stories that it's mind-boggling. The only thing that's different for IG Farms is that Tim does not have a job. The men worked. Tim does not have a job. He stays out there and monitors everything 24/7. Megan did have a job. He made her quit her job. But for all of the others, the fathers did go outside of the house, work, and then leave the mothers home with all of the children. They all have what would be considered larger families. It's woo. Okay,
even a very specific video where the oldest Sherry, I believe she was in volleyball. Now this clip I saw in real time, but I cannot find it for the life of me. But it was basically a video where Sherry was in volleyball, and she was supposed to have volleyball practice that day, but it got canceled due to everything going on. And because of this, Sherry starts crying, and Ruby gets confused as to why Sherry is crying, and she starts saying, "Oh, oh, you know, you could always see your teammates another time. It's no big deal. And now looking back on that and with knowing everything going on behind the scenes, I don't think she was crying because she didn't get to go to practice. Any other kid in that situation would be thrilled that they don't have to go to sports practice. They could just relax and take time to themselves. But the fact that Sherry was crying about it seemed as if this was her only escape from her mother and it had just been taken away from her. And in May of
I can see that. Your only outlet to get out of that crazy house, and it gets taken from you. You look forward to the moment that you can get to somewhere that you feel like is normal and safe. And when you can't, it's devastating. I would feel the same way.
2020, that is when Ruby would post a video titled What We Haven't Told You. And it was in this video where everything would be revealed. And this video is actually what made a lot of people take a very close look at this family and what exactly was going on. All of the abuse was going under the radar because it sort of kept in their fandom, and a lot of parents that had the same discipline techniques or views as Ruby, they were the ones watching these videos. So of course they weren't going to say anything about it. And also there was a target audience for these sorts of videos, and that's another reason why they were getting tons.
Okay, she just said something that's key. Parents who had the same type of disciplinary actions as Ruby were the ones watching her channel. And I always have been a believer of the people that keep you going have to be like-minded. If they come to a channel that feels strongly different than them, they're attacking you because they have to be like-minded. There's no way that you can't see what's going on out there. So if you see it, you're okay with it. They're filming it. It's out there, so you see it. You're okay with it. You have to be like-minded. I've been saying this, and she just confirmed it again, that those were the same type of people watching the channel, which is why they never reported anything. Wow. Wow.
Of views until this video was released. So at the top of the video, Ruby explains that her and Kevin recently just went to a retreat, and as part of their rules as they were away is that they banned all technology from the household. Now when they got back from their retreat, she learned that 2 of her kids had broke the technology rule. And in this video, she just straight up says their names and shows them on camera as they're getting in trouble. Now personally, I'm no snitch, so I'm not gonna say the names of who actually broke this rule, but the way that Ruby goes about it.
And while we were gone, we had the expectation that the kids would not be on the iPads. We said the kids would not be on the iPads. Come here, Eve. What that tells me, what that is feedback for me that tells me you are not responsible enough to manage yourself.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, my bedroom was taken away for...
Of course she's not. That sounds like a baby talking. The one that got up and walked away looked like he may have been 7. So you're talking to some of the youngest ones that you have and saying you're not old enough. Duh. We should all have to have mental evaluations before we can conceive. I don't think that that's stressed enough, because you can end up with babies raising babies, and that's what's happening here. They left underage children and said you're not old enough. Well, you think, and then if it was that serious to where you felt like this is what's going to happen to them if they break the rule, why not take them with you? Or why not lock them up somewhere and they don't know where it is? You left the temptation there because she wants a reason to punish them. She looks for a reason to punish them. That's her medicine. She gets off on that. It's an endorphin for her. She just can't wait. What rule did you break so I can get on to you? I need this. They feed off of it. I feel like we see that on IAG Farms with Tim and Tim Jr. He has convinced Tim Jr. that he has done something wrong and that he's forever on punishment about it.
7 months, and then you give it back like a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's in my head. It's pretty funny, but now I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No.
So he lost his room and was sleeping on a beanbag for 7 months. And you see she's laughing and trying to do that little cutesy stuff that she does. It's funny to her. But that's what I'm saying. She gets off on this. The torture of it. That's what she lives for.
We never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in the suitcase.
So the siblings was laughing about it. The mom laughed about it. And then, but she felt like it was serious enough to punish him for it. Everybody hears the joke in it. But she said that was reason enough. She looks for reasons. He is the oldest, so he was her first victim. And she trying to keep him to be that first victim. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. You're not going to victimize me anymore. So she has to up her punishment with him. She sent him off. He came back still being the same person. You can't take a person's being out of them. He is who he is. But she tried. She failed. So what can I do? How can I keep upping these punishments until I get you back under control? She'll never get that control from him again because he knows better. I hate that my brothers and sisters have to go through this, but you're not going to make me go through it. You can take my bed. You can take my bedroom. You will not take who I am.
And then he walked out the door, and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy, has his sunglasses on, and I was like, we're not going to Disneyland. And he started crying and hitting me, and then he went back to bed. We moved, the bigger room in the basement was automatically his, and I didn't have a room, but we like put one on hold for me.
So a lot of you are like, hey, that's not fair. Russell got the big bedroom and Chad got the smaller bedroom, and Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room, and he just got the bedroom back, and it's because he's shown up consistently without bullying the kids.
It was also in this video that Ruby would start to
Stupid.
acknowledge some of the comments about people asking why Chad was sleeping on a beanbag chair. And in this video, clearly, like, Chad's not laughing about it. Like, he's very traumatized at what's happening to him. And the entire time, Ruby is sitting there laughing and smiling as if Chad having to sleep on a beanbag chair, her own son suffering every night, probably having back problems, not getting enough sleep, and she's just laughing about it. In this same video, Ruby would also go on to say that she had never taken away something from her kids and given it back to them in less than 6 months. 6 months was like her minimum for taking things away. And as you can see from that video, although the kids are laughing and making fun of the situation, it's really, really sad because these punishments are so bizarre and they're abusive. And I feel like in the room, everyone knows that these punishments are a little extreme and they're a little bizarre, but they have no other way to cope with it because if they get mad or stick up for themselves, well, then that's just an argument. And so the only thing to do is to laugh. It's like they're not even
past this just a little. I haven't watched all of this, so I'm not sure what I'm skipping past, but I don't want the video to get too long, and we have laid the foundation for who she is, which is alarming to hear and see, but I just wanted to give a brief reaction to that part of it. I'm gonna try and move to I believe she got into the arrest part of
a
it.
room for months, but it was due to all of this backlash and these specific clips that she needed to show people, because now truth. What does that mean? And also, I think it's quite ironic that she is claiming to be a mother of 6 when literally none of her kids like her. Now, as I said, Ruby and Jody had started a podcast called Moms of Truth. So there was actually an episode of Moms of Truth where Ruby is opening up about how she had left YouTube and how that decision was so hard for her.
Full time. You wonder where I've been on my vlogs? You wonder why I left YouTube? It's to save my kids. No amount of money. I'm telling you, I was making millions. And I left it because my kids were being hurt. With entitlement, they were being hurt. With people's advice, and they didn't have a mother up the front saying, I don't care what the world's opinion is. This is the truth, and this is where I stand. And fortunately, I had a chance. I had them in.
The world was hurting her children, not her. The world who don't even have access to them. They've been taken out of school. They've moved around. But she said she got off of YouTube for that reason. I believe that she was starting to be held accountable for her actions. And she had to get off. It was going to be something legal to come down her way if she didn't. That crying, her feelings of hurt that she had to let that income go. That's what she's hurt about, because you can see how she tortured her children. She got joy out of torturing them, but she had let the world see too much of that torture, so she had to get off of there. But the torture didn't stop. It's just not being televised anymore. She was so sick she didn't realize
to do it, and
she was so sick she didn't realize that she was showing how sick her mind is.
I'm not going to lose them. They're seeing truth, they're accepting truth, they're loving truth. And so this is my passion, is to invite you to stand in truth and put your opinions to the side for a minute. Because your kids are the target of distortion.
Now, let's just remind each other, this woman profited off of abusing her kids online.
Exactly.
She made millions of dollars abusing her kids online for a living.
This is exactly what I was just saying. Like, she was getting paid to do that. She got ran off of YouTube because she was showing too much of who she is. She felt like the stuff she was doing was normal, until people start telling her that is not normal. When you think warped, you don't know what reality, a good reality is, until somebody tells you. You're still not agreeing with them, but when they start threatening you legally, then now I got to do something different. I am scared of that consequence. I don't believe you, though. I don't think that what I was doing was wrong. So guess what? I'm going to still continue to do what I've been doing, but I'm just not going to record it anymore. I'm about to hurt myself financially, and I really hate to give this income up. But I'm not going to film it for y'all no more. I'm just going to do it behind closed doors.
That's all she did. Filming her children in vulnerable moments is what made her millions. Yet she's crying about it because she walked away because it was hurting her children. She never cared about what her children wanted, because if she would have cared, she would have listened. And then in March of 2023, as I said, Ruby's siblings also had YouTube channels of her own. And so then that's when Ruby's sibling Bonnie would post a video titled Happy 20th Birthday Sherry, to which Sherry seemed to be celebrating her 20th birthday, but none of her siblings were present, neither were either of her parents. And all while Ruby is still online proving herself to be a perfect parent, and everybody should listen to her parenting advice because this is what works for her. On August 30th, 2023, police were called to a Utah home in Ivins, Utah, after the caller had said that a young 12-year-old boy had come to their home claiming that he wanted food and water. This 12-year-old boy was duct taped at the wrists and the legs and seemed
Now, this is the woman who just finished saying she got off of YouTube so that the people would stop hurting her children. She got off of YouTube. She claimed that people were hurting her children. So now YouTube has no more access to them, yet and still this hurt child goes to somebody's house. So who was actually inflicting the pain? This is why you have to speak up when you see something. People saw what was happening on YouTube, so she got off of YouTube. She is who she is. Whether she's on YouTube or not, she didn't stop what she was doing. So for anybody that sees something happening and speaks up, it baffles me at the people that will fight against it. Like, either you're too prideful to say, man, I missed that, or you're the same type of person. It can only be either or.
Extremely dehydrated and starved.
Had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he had just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay. Is your door locked?
No, I'm sitting outside with him on the front patio.
Okay, cool.
And he asked us to call the police.
The police show up to the scene and take the young boy to the hospital because his injuries were so severe, while they went to the house down the road to which the little boy had said that his other siblings were. But when the police would report to the home down the street, that is when they would find 3 young girls in similar condition to the young boy. Now, as you can probably assume, these 4 young children were Ruby's 4 youngest children. At this point, Sherry and Chad had moved away from the house. And the home that these 4 young children were found in were not the home that they shared with Ruby, but it was actually Jody's house. When the police went to the home, they actually found 2 adults already there, a woman by the name of Pam and her husband. Now, Jody's home was actually 4 hours away from Ruby's home, and so it was very concerning as to why the kids were there in the first place, but nonetheless, Child Protective Services showed up to the home and took all 4 kids away. Shortly after this would follow the official arrest of Ruby, Frank, and Jody. Following the arrest, Sherry would post to Instagram a picture of Child Protective Services outside of her house with Ruby inside, saying, quote, "Finally." And then her next post said, quote, "Hi all, today's been a big day. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell police and CPS for years about this, and so glad they finally decided to step up. The kids are..."
So this is what I was talking about on my last video when I said CPS had been called for this family and they never did anything about it. They would just look at the surface level of things and deem it okay and leave the children there. This is one of the older children that made this post saying, finally. 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 I believe this is the same one who cried about the practice being canceled. Finally. Finally, y'all doing something about it. Finally, she can't hurt us anymore. Finally, she's caught. Finally, somebody actually looked into this and caught her red-handed. She didn't slide through the cracks this time. She couldn't get away this time. Finally. Finally. So that's why I say, out at IAG Farms, I don't know. Some people feel like CPS wasn't called, that it was just clickbait. Some people feel like they were called. I'm not sure either way. But if they were called, it's very easy for people to slide through the cracks. They go out there, people put on a good show for you. Like they said, they showed the homeschool room. Somebody should have sat the boys down and asked them to read something. Add something. Show us that you've learned something, and that would have told the story. And then for Tim, he reported on it from his mom's house. I don't feel like he didn't go home because nothing was happening. I feel like he's scared of authority. He still is tormented by his prison days. So I'm not going down there where I could possibly get in trouble. I'm going to be on the phone with you. I'm going to record me talking to you through the phone, but I'm not coming down there. That's what I think happened. I think he was so nervous that if something happens, I'm going to stay down here. But I'm going to go ahead and let this play out some more.
Safe, but there's a long road ahead. Please keep them in your prayers and also respect their privacy. In early September, Sherry's old neighbors would actually start to contact Sherry, saying that they believe Ruby had left all the young children in the house for 3 to 4 days at a time, completely home alone. They also noted that Ruby started to do very odd things, such as tape paper over the windows so no light could be let in, as well as forcing her kids to work in the excruciating heat for hours on end with seemingly no food or water. And so due to this, Sherry called the police.
Hold up. Oh, goodness. Oh, jeez. Working in the excruciating heat with no food or water. How many times have we complained about those kids being out there and not even getting breakfast before they have to do chores? For months, I have been talking about this. And some of his subscribers do not see the problem in it. They don't see where it's an issue. No breakfast, but go outside and do chores. You can still see sleep on their faces sometimes, so you know no water has hit it. If they haven't washed their face, what makes you think that they were able to drink some water? They probably have to drink from that spigot outside just to quench their thirst. It is a running theme of how they operate, how they move within their families. This is mind manipulation. This is cult-like behavior. The first time that I mentioned cult, somebody asked, well, what does a cult have to do with a family? Are you serious? Maybe y'all should do more research before you start wanting to be mad at somebody. Google is free. We can all manage to learn something new each day. Because this right here, you can't argue with it. This has happened for centuries in different families. There are multitudes of stories that I'm going to cover. It will almost start to sound like, it will almost start to sound like the same story over and over again. The only difference will be the names have changed. There may be minor details that are different, but the general picture will start to look the same. This is a behavior. Because you're born into a family, does that mean that you have to be tortured like that? Does it mean that that's your life's mission, is to have to be tortured like that because that's who you were born to? Because that's how some people make it seem. It's like, stay out of family business. Really? Really? You can know that they're being tortured. You can know they're being abused, and because it's within a family, you say stay out of it. Goodness. Okay, so. Oh, okay. My mind is blown right now at just how similar everything is. This is my third story, and there are so many similarities in all three. And I'm talking about Andrea Yates, I'm talking about this particular story, and I'm talking about IAG Farms. So similar. I did a missing persons case earlier. I haven't gotten details on that yet, but I guarantee you I'll probably start to find some similarities in that one as well. But I'm going to go ahead and move further.
Their oldest daughter, 20-year-old Sherry Frankie, back in September 2022.
Hi, my name is Sherry Frankie. My 4 younger siblings are living in Springville, and my neighbors have been telling me that they have been left home alone for about 4 or 5 days.
After the arrest, Ruby's sister Julie and Bonnie came out about the entire situation, and they said that they actually had a pretty close relationship with Ruby. That was until Jody came into the picture. Once Jody started to spread her very hateful and disgusting beliefs and how she viewed connections and everything about connections, that is when Ruby started to spread those same morals as well, to which Julie and Bonnie did not like. And Bonnie and Julie even told Ruby that if she wants to come over to any more family functions, she is not allowed to talk about connections because they do not align with any of those beliefs and they don't even want to hear about it. A neighbor would later speak to the Rolling Stone in an article where they said, quote, In early 2022, it started getting weird. People were concerned because Ruby completely stopped her YouTube stuff, and then it kind of turned dark. She taped up paper all over her windows, she would disappear for weeks at a time, and there's all these little kids just left in that house. One thing we noticed, and we told the police the same thing, 6 to 8 weeks ago when it was really hot, I was outside in the late morning, afternoon, pulling weeds, and over at Jody's home, several kids were also outside of her home pulling weeds. Over the course of the day, the temperature was well over 100 degrees, and I gave up after a while because it was so hot, but I noticed that the kids stayed out there. And following all of this, that is when Ruby and Jody were both charged with 6 counts of child abuse, with one of the kids even saying that the therapist is the one that tied them up and would actually rub honey and cayenne pepper into their wounds as punishment. And shortly after the arrest, that is when they had her very first hearing, to which Kevin was present.
So now when we talk about IG Farms and the boys sitting down there in their room in the dark, quiet, and people try to act like you're making up stuff, y'all need to open up your eyes. You need to see what it's being filmed. It's put right there in front of you. If you only focus on what the person is talking about, yes, you're going to miss things. What's going on in the background, or what's not going on in the background, that will answer way more questions than just paying attention to them talking. Where are the boys? Why don't we see the boys? Why don't we hear the boys? Oh, I see the room open back there. Well, why is it dark? Are they outside or are they in their room? Then later in the video, they get called from the room. Well, why is it so dark back there? They don't even have the window open. They're not letting light shine in, just natural light. It's dark in that room. Why? And you can just go down the list of just breaking down a video like that. And that's what I have been doing at least a year now. Not in just starting my channel, but when I first started paying attention to Tim and how he was moving, these are the things I'm doing, is watching in the background. The boys' sleeping conditions in that little tiny trailer, down in those little cubby holes. That toilet being inches away from their head with just a sheet in between it. And I could just go down the list of things that I was watching in the background, commenting on, and comments just, being deleted. So you have to pay attention, and then you have to speak up. And if you keep participating, watching, and you don't say anything, you're in agreement. That's common knowledge. You're in agreement if you see it and don't say anything. If you say, oh, I unsubscribed and I don't even watch them anymore, okay, you're not in agreement with that. But if you subscribe, or if you chime in every time a new video is released, and you're cool with what you're watching, you may as well just move down there with them and be the same type of person. Get in where you fit in. And then I forgot, David E. Taylor was the other story that I covered, and his was very similar to this as well. His wasn't dealing just with family, but his tactics and things were the same. People starving, working for him in deplorable conditions, and we could just go on with that story too. But they all operate from the same handbook.
Now, to all of this, Ruby clearly has not learned her lesson, because Ruby, being the dark and twisted person she is, she then gets mad at her son that ran away from the home to try to get help. She grows so mad at him because it's his fault that she is in jail, and she lies to the court, and her attorney says, quote, Ruby at times broke down as she made shocking claims that one of her minor children sexually abused their sibling and molested did several other family members. Ruby said that in May, her child confessed to sexually abusing 20 people, including cousins and neighbors, with the judge saying, quote, "She's putting the blame onto her 2 kids to validate what she did to her children. At this point, I think she'll say anything to save herself." And then after her hearing came her trial, and that is when the real truth of everything would finally come out. Ruby had met Jodi back in 2019 through counseling, as I said before, but what we didn't know is that Jodi in 2022 actually moved into the family home that Ruby shared with her husband and kids. While Jodi was there, she was able to gain all control over Ruby and even brainwashed and manipulated Ruby into kicking Kevin out of the house because his
brainwashed and manipulated. Brainwashed and manipulated. And this is what cults are. It's brainwashing and manipulation. You already have an abusive mother. She already plays mind games with people. Now you have somebody who's actually able to play a mind game with her. So now she's a victim as well. She creates victims. Now she's a victim. Somebody is able to weasel their way in and control her. Like now she's the puppet. That's very interesting. And she talks her into moving her husband out of the house. So when all these, the worst of the worst is happening, the dad is not even a part of the family anymore. You know, he traveled a lot in the first place, so he missed a lot. But when the worst of the worst started happening, it was these 2 women that were carrying it out. So if the mom is not abusive enough, now this counselor is going to come in and she's basically experimenting with these kids. And the mom is allowing it because she has gotten control of her mind. So I can't torture them the way I want to anymore, but I'm going to let you torture them. And since the counselor already knows that they've been treated this way, it's the perfect people to use. I can do extreme things and she won't say too much because she's already been doing extreme things.
Attitude was infesting the household, aka he probably wasn't agreeing with all of the things she was saying at Connections, and so she just kicked him out of the house in order to prevent Ruby being influenced by him. When Kevin was kicked out of the house, he was then moved into a house up the street where he was constantly being monitored by members at Connection. On October 5th of 2023, Kevin would go on to say that he was absolutely shocked when Ruby was arrested, and he had no clue of the extent of the abuse that was going on at the household, and that over the past year he had only spoken to Ruby a couple of times and hadn't spoken to any of his kids at all. And the only updates that he got was from Ruby saying that his kids were doing amazing without him and that his kids love that he's not around and they're thriving and they're the happiest they've ever been. And at the time, Chad was actually still living in the household until Kevin had convinced Chad to move out of the household, with a fellow family member coming out to a news article saying, quote,
that's details that I'm really not going to get into. I'm probably about at the end of what I wanted to cover in this. She has laid out the foundation of everything that I wanted to highlight. I've researched several videos and I started to put my own little clips and stuff together, but hers was so much more detailed, and she did a very, very good, thorough job of piecing together everything that I've seen in other areas. And you can see that she took her time with this. She has several outfit changes, so she her research was over a span of time. Very detailed, and I appreciated it. So I was like, okay, this is the perfect one to react to because she's very detailed with it. But just, you know, I just wanted to get the general parts of the story out there because this story isn't that old, and I'm sure a lot of us remember it.
She will get for each charge is still unknown, but the maximum amount she could get is 30 years. And Ruby, this woman never quits. That is one thing about this woman. She never ever quits. Because after...
They don't know how to quit. I'm not sure what she's going to say, but I am going to in the reaction here. They never quit because that personality never quits. She's in jail, so she'll have to reinvent herself in there, but she's still her. The same thing she was trying to take out of her son, which is his essence. You can't do that. You are who you are. And so she's carrying that into jail now, and she's, you know, going to be locked up with a lot of people that think similar to her. But she's not going to quit. She'll only be silenced when the cameras go away and she's not getting the spotlight anymore in any shape, form, or fashion. That's when she'll have to, I mean, who knows what she'll be doing behind the jail cell, but, well, the walls of the jail, but it won't be highlighted anymore. That's when her light will dim. I remember this story, you know, the image of the little boy walking up on the people's porch and asking for help and just blowing everything wide open was, you know, made any of us like just stop and try and figure out what parent could treat their child like this. And then to watch it slowly unfold, it's just like, wow, you know, there's no way to know that somebody has gone to jail for this and then to see the same sign somewhere else and pretend like it's not the same thing. You can't do that. That's not rational thinking. You have to know that it is the same thing and that the same things could happen or worse. And like I said, this is just a drop in the bucket of these stories. So that was my coverage of this particular story. They are both women have been arrested. They are both in jail, and rightfully so. I feel like to torture your children their entire lives, you should pay for that. Then to let someone else come in and do them even worse, y'all both should pay for that. Now you harm your children twice because you inflicted abuse on them and then you allow somebody else to come in and do it as well. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this reaction. I hope that you gained some knowledge. I'm going to link her video below so that if any of you all want to go and see the full video, you can do that. I don't think there's anything else that I need to talk about. No, I don't think there's anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. But again, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did and you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscription button. I will be bringing these types of stories once a week to the channel. I don't have a dedicated day to it yet, but once a week I will be bringing one of these stories. I want to shed light on the chaos that's going on out there, and hopefully we can all save somebody from being in this situation. If we see the signs, then we know that it's there and we can speak up and do something about it. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.